Good evening. Welcome to our Equity News on EquityAxis. Thank you for joining us as we broadcast live from our Hampton studios in the capital. My name is Caroline Chkerema.
And I am Rebedzai Goredema.
On to our news tonight.
Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor Dr. John Mangudya has given an indication that government will be introducing a new currency in the next 2 weeks. The latest of what has been an intense speculation regarding the authorities' next big move in the face of persisting cash shortages and high cash out premiums. Dr. Mangudya, who also serves as the Monetary Policy Committee Chair, told a press conference in the capital that the committee has noted that the level of physical cash in the economy is inadequate to meet transactional demand, considering that the current proportion of cash to broad money supply of 4% is low compared to regional and international levels of 10 to 15%. He also indicated that the cash injection will be in the form of $2 and $5 currencies, whilst a new 2-bond coin will be introduced into the system in addition to the existing forms of bond notes and coins. Let's have a look.
Very honest, which is typical of myself. I only have 3 value systems. Always being transparent and respect or free for those who don't like me. So I think I've got a very high respect. Now, to other questions, in simple terms, that is number 1, we have got bond coins in circulation, bond notes in circulation of $2 notes and $5 note. We're going to have bond coins of $2 in circulation, and we're going to have $2 of currency money in circulation, and $5 note of currency money in circulation. They are going to be used interchangeably, because one is 1-to-1. And the new currency won't have any gold bond note, just called $5. It's just $2. But they're the same, they're all green and that publish. So when you look at them, they're still the same. You say you always don't be for Gage 1-to-1. They're also Gage 1-to-1. I think I've answered the question. I've tried.
Thank you, Governor. You have answered his question.
The value of goods imported into Zimbabwe rose 19.5% to $1.3 billion in the 3 months to June 2019 compared to the previous quarter. The increase is mainly due to a rise in imports of diesel, up 33.4%, petrol 17.6%, crude soybean oil 91.9%, and medicines 425.9%. The Reserve Bank said in its latest quarterly update. Exports, however, dipped 8.3% to $860 million. Fuel constituted the largest chunk of the total value imports in the quarter, under review accounting for 31%. As a result of the disparity between imports and exports, Zimbabwe's trade balance widened from a deficit of $165.9 million recorded in the first quarter of 2019 to a deficit of $450.7 million in the second quarter.
Just in from a cabinet briefing, District Development Fund has rolled out Food for Work program, where people in food deficit areas carry out routine road and infrastructure rehabilitation programs and they work for food. 200 beneficiaries per province have benefited from the program, getting a monthly stipend and 50 kgs of maize from the Social Welfare Department. Let's have a look.
We apologize for the technical glitch. We'll bring you the video later. In proceeding, the Cotton Company of Zimbabwe plans to set up a 1 megawatt solar plant for its generic operations in Mzarabani in light of unprecedented power outages currently being experienced in the country. This is coming at a time when Energy and Power Development Minister Fortune Chelsea is encouraging more private sector participation in the generation of renewable energy to help complement electricity supply. Zimbabwe is experiencing power shortages that have forced ZESA to introduce an aggressive load shedding schedule in a bid to manage power consumption. COTCO Managing Director Pius Manamike said plans to establish the plant are now at an advanced stage and is expected to start functioning in the first half of next year.
Zimbabwe's largest and most innovative telecommunications provider, Equityxis, has increased its voice, data and SMS tariffs, which has resulted in Telecel and Net1 following suit. The telecoms industry is being forced to adjust its pricing in line with the dynamic economy characterized by rising inflation and the loss of value of the Zimbabwean dollar. For Telecel, the new tariffs make it cheaper to call other networks than to call its own networks, and the same applies to Net1.
Fuel prices have increased by 12% to $16.75 and $17.47 for petrol and diesel respectively, after 2 weeks of unchanged prices effective from Monday, 28 October 2019. In factoring the new fuel prices, Zera used an exchange rate of 1 as to 15.57 between the US dollar and Zimbabwean dollar, which is slightly short of the official interbank rate 1 as to 15.18. Meanwhile, the parallel market rates are averaging 1 as to 20.604 USD RTGS trades and 1 as to 14 for USD bond notes. Stay tuned. Up next is News Review.
Climbing to the top takes more than just hard work and smart choices. It's the passion that drives you from within, the endurance to keep going through difficult times, and having a very clear vision of how to succeed. That's what we strive for at CBZ. We're a diversified and innovative listed financial services group in Zimbabwe with a complete range of activities including banking, short and long-term insurance, asset management, and property investments. CBZ has been a pinnacle for stability in the economic landscape of Zimbabwe, stemming from our deep-rooted values, our excellent customer service delivery, and our corporate vision to strive for excellence as a global competitor. Our continuous investment in research and development will cement our promise to provide customer convenience utilizing state-of-the-art technology. Relationships are at the core of what we do. We understand, however, that strong, long-lasting partnerships are not built overnight. With over 3 decades of wealth management, we have come to understand our clients and their specific investment requirements. Our unique mix of skills ensures that investment opportunities are examined from all perspectives. The balancing rocks of Zimbabwe have weathered the elements for thousands of years and stood the test of time, like majestic reminders of the fine balance of nature. They challenge our perception of what is possible and what endures. Just as CBZ has weathered the economic storms and remained steadfast throughout the turbulence of unsettled economies. Achieving the impossible through resilience and stability, we balance the elements of hard work, dedication, and experience, making us your ideal partner for success.
A splendid evening it is to viewers. Welcome back to News Review. I'm Ibn Mabunda, and with me on set is Chief Analyst Respect Quincy. Respect, good evening and welcome to News Review.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you.
Beautiful. Now, at the crux of today's news is, of course, the developments on the monetary policy perspective, where central bank has indicated that we've got new notes that are coming through. But just to shed light as well as to bring things into perspective in terms of where it is that we're coming from right up to this point, where central bank is indicating the introduction of some new notes. Just to go through the timeline, on the 1st of October of 2018, we see the separation of RTGS balances from FCA Nostro accounts. On the 22nd of February, we see the launch of the interbank market system. On the 23rd of June, we get the announcement of the coming in, of course, of a new currency. And at this particular juncture, central bank says, hey, we're bringing in new notes into the picture. Just for the sake of clarity, Respect, what exactly do we have playing out here? I've seen some media houses reporting that we've got a new currency coming through, and has brought in with it a little bit of confusion. Would you, just clear the air in terms of what it is that we're actually seeing playing out here?
Yeah, so sure, it is what it is. The government is finally issuing a note to support the currency that they introduced a few months ago, that is around late June, on the 23rd to be more specific. But then I think the difference now lies in the rate of injection of the new notes. So they have actually highlighted within some of the results that they have done as a monetary policy committee to say we'll continue to gradually increase the rate of hard cash into the market. So yes, it's a new note, but this new note will not be haphazardly introduced. They will continue to inject it gradually. So what it means is that if you are having 500 million, or to date I think we've got about 700 million in terms of bond notes and coins that are circulating in the country. So essentially that portion will have to be channeled out. But instead of that money, we'll see the RBZ injecting a once-off supply of that magnitude. But then beyond the 700 million mark, we'll then see RBZ gradually increasing the level of notes in the system. But the target really is that if you look at where we're coming from, I think in 2014 we're sitting at about 49% in terms of our hard cash ratio. Our hard cash ratio is determined from looking at the level of nostro added to your bond notes and coins. But as for 2014, we didn't have bond notes and coins. But bond notes and coins came into play late in 2016, or November to be specific. But since then, we have seen a gradual decline in terms of the ratio of hard cash to the total money supply levels. Why? This is essentially an issue to do with broad money supply. We are seeing government borrowing more money on the open market, treasury bills and so forth, and therefore you see a quicker rise in terms of the RTGS money. But this could not be matched in terms of hard currency generation, which underpinned what you are calling hard cash. So we saw a sharper or a more a variance between these two aggregates, and resultantly it led to the coming in of the new currency. Why? Because that broader RTGS signified a new currency of sort which was coming into play. But the challenge today is that we have got bond notes and coins which are sitting at about 700 million. Of course, we have got more in terms of our nostro positions, but all those cannot be easily liquidated. We now have got an interbank market where one has to sell cash, so it's no longer part of what we call ready liquid cash. So our ready liquid cash for day-to-day use is now your normal bond note and coin, and that ratio is 700 million compared to a total money supply of 17 billion. I think you can easily calculate that ratio is less than 2%. So essentially, when you don't have an economy which operates with such low cash levels, typically the general rule across the world is that an economy has to have between 10 and 15% of its money supply in hard currency form. So we are sitting at about between 2 and 3% thereabout in terms of money that you can transact with, minus your electronic and your nostro positions. So this is a point that needs to be corrected. Why? Because it's creating a huge premium for cash because you want to settle your bills in bond note terms or in hard cash terms. You have to buy using your RTGS, which really has been growing at a much faster rate. So this is part of the crisis. But in terms of implication, or in terms of the new currency, I think there simply has to be a model of how to match your existing RTGS to the new injected balances. So if you debit this side and you credit the other, it cancels out. It's not going to be inflationary. But now, what causes inflation is whereby RBZ willingly inject more notes and coins without necessarily cancelling out RTGS dollars to suit that new injection. That really causes money, that really causes inflation, because you are simply increasing the quantum of money supply. But if you cancel out your debit and your credit side, definitely inflation is zero. But also, there's a human element to this. You've got your layman in the street who has seen yesteryear challenges, your 2008 problems, where government was printing money like it's gone out of fashion. So what then came out was that inflation went up and the money lost value. So there's still that psych effect in terms of the populace.
Confidence issues coming in there. But of particular interest is the level of money that would then be printed, or should I say the level, the quantity, should I say, of the cash that would come into the system. 2 weeks back, remember, at the Banks and Banking Awards, Deputy RBZ Governor Dr. Chipika did allude to the fact that more money would be injected into the system at monitored levels to achieve 2 things. One, financial inclusion on the one hand, and on the other hand, to try and curb, or should I say, tame inflation. Question at this point would be, just how much is enough to get us from where we are to where we need to get to?
Yeah, I think that's a subjective question. Like I said, there's a rule of thumb to say if you achieve between 10 and 15% in terms of your total money supply, then you're able to stabilize your current cash needs. But now, we have a populace which has got low confidence levels in the issuing authority. So essentially, when you get hold of cash within the next at least 5 months, it means you are not going to easily dispose of that money unless there's a critical expenditure that you want to get into. So essentially, we'll see people get to scramble in banks and try to get that little liquidity. What are they going to do? They're going to put that liquidity under the pillow. And essentially, you're actually worsening, or you're actually increasing the shortage levels of that same knot which you purport to. Why? Because there's no confidence that exists in the market. So to really say if we increase the level of knots in the system up to a certain ratio, I don't think it's enough. You have got a fundamental confidence issue that's there. So if people are going to anticipate that there's going to be inflation, we're going to run out of money, then people can, rational human beings always take necessary steps to hedge themselves against that expectation of inflation, of shortage, and so forth. So we'll continue to see the customers and the generality preferring to keep the hard cash under their pillow.
Interesting. Now, to sort of take you back to some of the things that were said there by Central Bank. Central Bank says that our fundamentals are in place.
Yeah. So I think that's a really debatable issue. In 2016, in November to be precise, RBZ set out what they called, these are fundamentals that we have to achieve. And part of it was that we should have a minimum forex reserves. At least we should have a 3 months import cover. Our imports per month is around 330 million. We import goods worth about 330 million per month on average. And therefore, what it means is that if you're having a 3 months import cover, you should have at least 1 billion in US dollar reserves. At the present moment, we don't have at least even a $0 reserve within us. What a reserve helps you to do is that it cushions you in terms where demand for your currency is high, and therefore demand for the external currency or for forex is high. You can actually tap into your reserves and try to moderate the market by increasing supply of that foreign currency. Therefore, it lowers the exchange rate in a way. So if you have forex reserves, it stabilizes the market in periods where there's high fluctuations or there's high demand for that external currency. So when you don't have a forex reserve, like we do have, like we are in the situation that we are in right now, what it means is that when there's significant demand for forex, the government cannot be able to play a role in cushioning that high demand levels because there's no adequate supply in the market, and also government does not have reserves. So we failed to achieve that at the point of introducing a new currency. So it makes the financial system, the exchange rate, more vulnerable to market manipulations. You saw how players like Sakunda went into the market and started demanding huge dollar balances, taking advantage of the TBs that they had liquidated at the RPZ. So we don't have that. And there's also a sustained budget position. Whenever you have a government which still struggles to meet its cost function, at present moment we are seeing government's expenditure coming under pressure from high inflation levels. That means they constantly have to revise. So in the first 6 months, of course, we achieved a budget surplus of about 800 billion, but that has since shifted. In September, if not August, we actually had a wider deficit of more than 1.5 billion. And up to year end, we are likely to see that deficit level go up to even 5 billion. Where is that coming from? It's coming from the fact that government cannot keep holding its cost constant given the ever-increasing price levels in the economy. So when price levels are increasing, government also has to increase its to adjust its cost function in order to meet demands for salaries, demands for infrastructure projects, demand for operations. If you see how much government is now expending in terms of their operations, some huge amount, so that they're not able to fix the president's motorcade, they have to buy those spare parts in USD, irrespective of the fact that you have a limited budget. But they can afford to squeeze you, the civil servant. But that's also not sustainable. You've got service delivery issues, you've got other problems like you can no longer import adequate power and so forth and so forth. So there is a problem when you have a budget position which is not stable, which is not balanced. This is the point, this is the position that we are in. It's part of those fundamentals.
And government is back playing on the markets. We are seeing increased monetization of the public debt. I mean, we are likely to see more of it as we go. I mean, over the past 2.5 months, we've seen about 550 to $600 million being issued
in terms of treasury. Yeah, sure. So what's really significant, in July we saw about a $2 billion injection in terms of money supply, and this involved some of those moves towards monetizing some of the TBs and so forth. So it really blotted our money supply levels. But the danger is when we get into the last quarter of the year, October, November, December, how is government going to handle its finances? Is it not going to overspend? They've already said we are going to overspend by about 3.5 billion. Are we still on course to incur just a 3.5 billion deficit? No, I don't think so. Why? Because when they budgeted for a $3.5 billion deficit, the exchange rate was 1:8. The exchange rate is now almost 1:16, which means a lot of the costs within that cost function are actually going up. So it means they're going to borrow more, and when you borrow more, it means money supply gets bloated. It means your exchange rate can't still be stable. So we haven't achieved that. Then number 3, sustainable interest rates. They are a function of macroeconomic stability. What is a sustainable interest rate? A sustainable interest rate is an interest rate that does not promote speculative activities. If you have got an interest rate of, say, an average of about 8%, and you see inflation that's sitting at about 350, it means that interest rate is not sustainable. People are going to borrow just to go bend the money, pay back their loans, and speculation is rife. So they adjusted the interest rate up to 50%. An interest rate which is sustainable ensures that people can borrow and they can speed up demand as and when possible, or people may borrow less if you put in more stringent interest rates. So you need to be able to play around with the interest rate, but it needs to be sustainable. We don't have a sustainable interest rate. Why? Because we've got high inflation levels. So those are some of the deliverables in terms of achieving macroeconomic stability, or what we call fundamentals in this regard. So when you see RBZ and a group of MPC executives.
Okay. Yeah. Carry on.
Okay, so I think these are some of the challenges that we're facing, and confidence also comes into the matrix. Inflation, high levels of inflation, they definitely discourage macroeconomic stability, as well as a healthy job market. We have got a job market where we have got a high unemployment rate. Inflation is sitting at 353% as at the prior month, and we've got the lowest confidence of any country that you can ever imagine. So this set of fundamentals, which RBZ set for itself on the 1st of November 2006, have not been achieved. So you cannot then say we are building on a sustainable base of economic.
And certainly we cannot say that our fundamentals are in place at this point.
Yes, because I've just highlighted the fundamentals, and they're definitely not.
Very much out of place. But just lastly, as we wrap up, what will be the expected effect of these new notes and new coins that are coming? Do you really think that they're going to address cash premiums? You know, the whole mobile money setup that we've got. Do you think that this injection is going to scratch right where it's itching?
I think you're missing the catch in terms of what the MPC commit deliberated on today. The real catch in this highlight was that RBZ, as the monetary authorities, they have allowed money supply levels to grow over the past 8 months. What did they do? They allowed a growth of about 80% year on year as at August in terms of money supply levels. That's unprecedented. If you look at July, to be specific, the month-on-month growth in terms of RTGS money on the broader money supply schedule was a 20% increase, or $2 billion increase. That has never been done. That has never been incurred in Zim. Why is this so significant? Our money supply level is 17 billion. So when you inject 2 billion on a $15 billion base, that's quite huge. And like I'm saying, it's a 20% increase. So what does a 20% increase in money supply do to the exchange rate? You saw how the rate moved from 10 to 15. How it moved on the parallel exchange from 12 to 20. That was because of money supply. And RBZ comes in and says, we did this and we are wrong. We are now trying to correct that. As at August, there was a 10 percentage points decrease. A 10 percentage points decrease of any number would give you a percentage change of less than 4 to 5%. So that's quite insignificant. So it's worrying that government is increasing broad money supply levels. But to the layman, the language is always about your notes and coins. But that's not significant. If you inject 500 million new notes today, that has got a small impact. In fact, if you put 500 million in on 15 billion, the ratio is quite small. But what happens when government simply puts $2 billion in terms of TB money, RTGS money into the system? The impact is it destabilizes the exchange rate. So there has been a deliberate destabilization of the exchange rate by the same authorities who are purporting or who are saying that there is macroeconomic stability. So that's a worrying point. So we have to keep on tracking how money supply behaves as we go into the full year. That's going to have a more serious impact than these notes and coins. These notes and coins are going to be gradually injected if we are to take the government's word. But that too can no longer be trusted in the face of this kind of injection of a $2 billion just in July alone.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Respect, for the perspectives. Looks like we're in for an interesting ride as an economy. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and to visit our informative website, www.EquityAxis.net. From the EquityAxis team and I, Danke and Asante Sana.